What's up, everyone, and welcome to Method in the Madness. This is the podcast that not only delves deep into design and creativity, but also leadership, productivity, and personal development. So, in episode 2, I'm joined by a guy called Craig Black, and Craig is a very talented typographer, lettering artist, designer, and pretty much just fun guy to kind of have on the show. He's been an independent designer now for 5 years. And in that short space of time, he has gone from designing logos and painting cool murals for local businesses to now, he's working with global brands on a huge scale, doing all kinds of exciting work that would probably make any designer jealous, to be fair. Just check out his Instagram to kind of show that. But anyway, Craig and I have a really good laugh on this episode, and I could have chatted away to him for another couple of hours, but in the hour that I did have with him, we chat about a few different things, such as the moment Craig discovered that he had a talent and a fascination for typography. Craig also talks about his journey to becoming an independent designer, how he's continually developing his ability to adapt by learning from his mistakes. Craig touches on what inspires his work, how he gets over his creative blocks and where his ideas originate from. And Craig also talks about, his time on the speaking circuit. He's traveled all around the world doing speaking and keynotes and all kinds of things at conferences worldwide, and how this has actually inspired him to come back home and start his own social enterprise, which is really cool, called Creative Inverclyde. I'll let him, tell you all about that. But, you'll hear for yourself just how much of a character Craig is, and this was a really fun episode for me, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. So, without much further ado, please welcome Craig Black to Method in the Madness. So, Craig, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Like a total creepy bastard, I have followed your work for quite some time, but never actually got the opportunity to meet you until recently when we were at a BIMA event that I was speaking at. And
you're being creepy as fuck as well.
Yeah, definitely, all the time. And I'm actually pretty jealous of your work for numerous reasons, because unlike my work, which is digital design and websites, nobody tends to really screen grab it and stick it up on Instagram with a hashtag or anything like that. When your kind of work has the ability to kind of make people who aren't even interested in creativity, design, and typography go, that's fucking cool. I'm going to take a photo of that and throw it up on Instagram or talk about it or film it and share it on social media. We don't get many people complimenting our websites, but that feeling must be pretty cool, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty wicked, and sometimes I need to kind of pinch myself. But it's amazing to see people from not only the creative sector and all walks of life see my work and feeling inspired and loving what I do and willing to share it with other people. The big thing about my work is I like to make people smile, and whether it's seeing the process behind it or actually seeing the finished product, or whether it's a mural or kind of installation, it's always nice to see people sharing my work, and it's really amazing to see.
I can imagine. For those of you who don't know, sorry, I've done an awful job of introducing you, but Craig, you are a typographer, lettering artist, mural artist, graphic designer extraordinaire, and you do all kinds of different work. But when did you first discover that you had a talent or a knack for typography and kind of lettering?
I would probably say it was like the last uni project that I did. It was my very first time doing any kind of lettering work. It was a fictional kind of branding and packaging for a craft brewery, and I wanted to create this kind of label and a kind of custom lettering design. And I've never done anything like that before. I've always been fascinated by type and lettering throughout the years without really knowing what it was at the same time. But I remember this project, and it was probably the hardest project I've ever worked on in my entire life. I found it so frustrating trying to do some kind of lettering work, but I persevered and I persevered and I persevered, and then I got it to this kind of finished product, and it got a few awards and recognition, got a few likes online, and it made me realise that this is something that I want to do for the rest of my career. I thoroughly enjoyed that kind of that struggle in a weird sense. I loved challenging myself in that way and seeing what I could produce in the end of it. And from then, I just knew all along that I wanted to be an independent designer specialising in typography and lettering. And it's really just snowballed from there. It's always been, whether when I first started working in other agencies, in the background, I was always wanting to do my typing and lettering, and I've just produced a portfolio over and over again for the past few years now. And now I'm out on my own doing this, specialising in this field, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So when was that kind of first project then at uni?
Uni was 2013. It was. So
It's not that long ago,
it's
considering your body of work.
Yeah. What people don't realise, the amount of hard work that I've put into it. So what happened was I graduated in 2013 from Glasgow, and I moved straight to London, and I worked with a design agency down there. But in my evenings and weekends, I practiced on my typography and lettering. One of the reasons is the salary down there didn't afford me to do anything else other than stay in and try to do some work. But I just practiced and I practiced because I truly believed that this is something that I could do, and I wanted to do this for the rest of my career. So if I put in the hard work now, then I'll reap the benefits later.
Yeah, of course.
So I continued that process for 2 or 3 years, working with agencies, but in the background I was working away doing my typing and lettering, and no one knew who I was at all.
So what specifically were you doing? Like when you're saying you're practicing your type, is it just like sketch pads?
Yep.
Going mental?
So I always been pencil to paper first, always done it. It's still my same process now, especially in this digital age with people with iPad Pros and stuff like that. I'm still that old school pencil
Purist.
to paper. And I love it, and I just love the flexibility of it, and the kind of mistakes that can happen become beautiful things at the same time, which I don't know if you can get in the digital world, maybe in the iPad Pros. I don't know. I've not even tried it.
Yeah.
But I've always loved that process. And that's the kind of process that starts with all kind of projects that I do. But that was what I started off in that kind of, when I was working on these weekends and evenings. But then I started to think about how can this type and lettering work on a different canvas or different medium, whether it's digital or can it be painted on a wall, can it be painted on wood or an object. And then I started to just I was just quite fascinated to see how far I could push it, and especially in those early days. And I was just figuring things out on my own because no one ever taught me type or lettering. I've always been self-taught. Yeah. Everything that I've done has been practice after practice after practice. I've made a whole ton of mistakes, but I had to get through that process to work on my craft and fine-tuning where I'm at now. So all those early days, I can remember, I think I got a cricket bat. I thought, I'm going to paint on this cricket bat using a Sharpie pen. But one thing I didn't realise is the ink was like bleeding all over the wood, and then it just became a mess. But if I didn't go through that process, I didn't know how to use a sign painter's paint instead.
Yeah.
And so all these little bits and pieces have led to me, like I said, fine tuning my craft now.
And is that is a lot of your job kind of learning on the fly? Because not all of us are just natural ability to paint on a wall this beautiful mural. Like, how many times did you have to paint on a wall to discover, oh fuck, that Sharpie doesn't work, this paint doesn't work?
There's a lot of learning as you go, and there's a real beauty in that as well. Usually when these projects happen, you've got obviously a deadline, and you need to work to that, and you use whatever you feel could work for that kind of project. But sometimes you need to adapt, and I'm learning like, okay, that paintbrush doesn't work with that kind of paint. How can I do this stroke differently? And don't get me wrong, I have asked a lot of other creatives in the industry, and they've been amazing people who have helped me. And I'm always pestering people like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Any kind of little bit of knowledge I can take from them and use it in my own practice has hugely kind of helped me. But a lot of the times it has been learning as you go, and you kind of need to. But when you do that, when the next project comes on, whether it is another mural project, I'm more equipped in the bigger murals again, and then you know what kind of paint to use, and your process gets quicker each time, and it's always this fine tuning, like what can I do 5% better than I did last time. But there's a beauty in that aspect of kind of not knowing, because sometimes when you're doing a mural, for instance, that line that looked good on a digital screen doesn't look quite well on a wall because it's quite bumpy, or the paint doesn't really take to it well. So you need to adjust, and it's problem solving on the spot. And that's
literally on the spot.
literally on the spot, and it's brilliant.
Somebody breathing down your shoulder, like,
you better get that straight
mate,
line.
that's a bit fucking squint. Like,
I've had a few comments like that, but you just take it as kind
as
of
well as
inspiration.
public as well,
Yeah.
passers-by watching you do these
Oh,
things.
I get plenty of old men slating me when I'm painting away and go, "That's fucking shite, son." I'm like, "Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks for the confidence boost." But yeah, that's what's happening.
So, like, how much of your job is you getting in touch with people, selling your wares, getting in touch on LinkedIn, by email, just face to face, whatever, or clients coming to you because of your work, because we were discussing earlier about our own offices, about getting you to paint in here, like, we could really do with something up on that wall. Who do we get in contact with? And how much of it is a client coming to you with a really clear idea versus, oh, we want something, don't really know what, could you tell us, and super vague, brief kind of client?
Sometimes it's a mixed bag. A lot of clients can come to me directly saying, "I love that you've done this piece of work. Could you use those kind of assets and skill sets for this idea that we have?" And they would give me a mood board that would be quite specific. And sometimes that's really great, because sometimes we get the vague stuff, which I'm perfectly well and capable of doing and I have done previously. But sometimes you're like kind of clutching at straws, trying to think, well, what is it you actually need? What is it you want? And you're trying to draw that information out. And then eventually you get to that point, and you could have saved yourself a bit of time if they had the proper brief in the first place. But that's when you work with a client or whoever to get to that point. But the biggest thing in terms of kind of working with agencies and meeting people is I do a lot of face-to-face meeting, and I always believe that people buy into people first. And I think that's really, really important, because it's all great having a portfolio, but people don't realise the hard work goes in the background of actually going meeting people and seeing them face to face. And that's business at the end of the day.
Building relationships with people.
Yeah, totally. Like, I am an independent designer, but I'm running a business, and I need to have a business mind as well. So I need to knock on doors and they go, "Hey, have you actually seen my work?" And you kind of need to go, put the work in front of their face, and then it kind of sparks something in their head. The amount of times that I've went in and met a client or a brand or an agency, and I've showcased something in my portfolio, and they go, "You know what, we could do that kind of work with a packaging project or a branding project or a mural project." And then that naturally forms into a collaboration of like, "Can you come in and help us with this?" And I say, "Of course." So that's been a big driving force for me, is getting out on the road and meeting people, knocking on doors, and using social media as well. Like, I heavily invest in kind of LinkedIn. It's been a big driver for me, and I really invested only in it, say, a year ago or a year and a half ago, properly, and just started connecting with the right people and just saying hello and connecting people. Like, I've known you for, like, I've known of you for a good few years now. It's one of those admiration ones, like, "Here's Gregor," and I've always wanted to say hello, but I've never really had the proper opportunity. But we communicated on LinkedIn, we said hello and stuff, and then
you get likes back and forth and all that. So you almost like you end up building a friendship that you've not actually met. And
it's so true, though.
Sounds like a pen pal.
That's what we are now. And then we also met at BEMA, and then it just led from there. But what people tend to realize is when business relationships is people relationships, and it's just actually building a relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. And I think that's really, it's an important thing to share, because the amount of people say, "Oh, you've got a stunning portfolio, work just comes to you." Yes, it does, and I'm fortunate for that to happen, but sometimes you need to get out there to make people see what you're capable of doing. So you've got to shout about it, and that tends to be a hard thing for Scottish people specifically to do. It is. Like, at first I was like, "Oh, fuck, man, like, people are going to think I'm full of shit," and all those kind of things. But
and proper imposter syndrome coming on.
Oh, totally. But do you know what? I quickly realised that
we're all full of shit.
We're all full of shit, and we all just talk shit all the time. But it's important to realise that even like myself, or even Scottish designers and Scottish design work is world class, but we don't shout about it enough. And it's like almost a kind of imposter syndrome, "Oh, we're going to be knocked off our perch." But I wanted to kind of eradicate that and go, "You know what? I am good at what I do. I'm fucking brilliant at typography and lettering, and you want to work with me because I'll give you the best work you can ever possibly get in that field."
Yeah.
And because I've took that kind of mantra or mentality on, it's honestly led to many more opportunities. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm riding this bandwagon.
Yeah,
I'm going to see
not?
what it is. Exactly. But when I do that, and it's almost like, I don't sound cheesy, but a shining light, But that leads on to other people doing the same, whether it's an agency or a brand, especially in Scotland, to shout about what they're doing. And then it leads to interesting collaborations. And people may have not seen your work before or heard about you, but because you are brave enough to showcase what you're doing, it leads to interesting opportunities.
And you were telling me earlier, just before we kind of went live, that you're going to be traveling to the States again pretty soon to kind of work with hopefully some companies over there. And you've just kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, yes, you're a typographer, lettering artist from Scotland, and you get all these people who have the kind of opinion that you need to be in the big smoke in the big cities to work with the big brands and the cool projects, but you're literally proving them wrong project by project. Like, tell us about how, like, is that just LinkedIn again? Like, connecting with these people, or are they like reaching out to you because they've seen a piece of work online?
It's been a bit of both, and also a part of the kind of speaking circuit that I've done, and actually word of mouth as well. Building relationships with other people who've been great enough to pass on my portfolio onto other people, and then all of a sudden you get this agency from Canada saying, "Oh, so and so from New York's passed on your work," and I'm like, "This is mental! Like, this is amazing, mental, but it's crazy." And I literally work from a small coastal town called Gregor on the west coast of Scotland, and I'm predominantly my clients are international now, which is amazing. And the big thing for me is, like, I spent time in London and I worked down there, and I always thought to myself, if I want to be the best I can be in this field, then I need to be here. And I proved myself wrong actually, that I didn't need to be there, because since I've been away from there, I just getting sick and tired of the hustle and bustle down there. And all my wife and my family and friends, everybody was back home, and everyone was saying, "Go home, Craig." And the funny thing is, I've actually getting more London-based clients by being away.
That's so typical.
But yeah, it is. But the big thing, even when I work with the clients in America or anywhere in the world, like, I'm proud to say, listen, I'm working from my home, which is like a home studio.
Probably love it though.
Yeah,
like,
they do it.
Like,
yeah,
it's not some, I don't know. It is literally
it's
Scottish
reality.
guy. Reality.
Yep.
As you are,
And that's been a massive. Sorry to cut you off, but that's been a massive part of my brand as well. Which at first I didn't even realize I was doing it. It was a part of my brand, but it's almost that sense of authenticity. When I'm speaking to these brands and I say, "Listen, I'll literally look 100 yards out the window and the water's there." I says, "I walk along this promenade every morning. Beautiful mornings here." I says, "All right, Scottish weather can be like one day sunny, one day pissing down with rain." I says, "But I love it here." And to be honest, I wouldn't move anywhere else in the world. I love home. And that's where I plan on being for the rest of my career and the rest of my life.
Nice.
But that doesn't deter me from working on an international scale. Yeah. And that's the big thing, that people in Scotland are starting to realise that they can do that themselves because they see me doing it, especially being an independent and being able to do that and say, how is Craig doing that? But it's being real and telling people, like, I'm happy to come work with you in New York for 2 or 3 weeks on this project. You build that relationship, you build that kind of trust, then they know that when I go back home, we can communicate over Skype, Google Hangouts, doing the work back home, because that trust is developed. But it all goes back to that building relationships face to face, and that's why I'm going to New York in September. One is for a project, but I saw this as an opportunity to meet other brands who have been speaking to me for the past kind of 6 months to a year, saying, anytime you're in New York, please come say hello.
And I'll just drop by.
And that's I just dropped by. So I was like, I need to capitalize on this opportunity, because when do you ever get a chance at this? So I'm going out for a week in September, and I'm meeting some amazing kind of brands and companies and agencies out there. Just going to say hello, and I'm doing a lot of talks. I'm doing portfolio showcases as well. But every time this kind of strategy that I've done before has led to work down the line. And it could be, what the biggest thing is, it could lead to 6 months or a year down the line. To give you a bit of insight, I spoke at the design conference in Brisbane, Australia last year. May last year. I did my talk, and off the back of that, there was a creative director based in San Francisco, and we stayed in contact. He loved the talk, which was really nice. I was just talking shite. But he stayed in contact ever since, and it wasn't until a year later he contacted me, and was that 2 months ago now? He reached out and said, Craig, I want to get you on this board in this word mark of this brand that we're doing. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do this kind of
Yeah.
thing. But it just shows you that relationship is so important to keep. Like, don't think just passing a business card's doing,
Yeah.
nah, that's not right. That's fuck off. You know what I
Just
mean?
keep the
Like,
conversation going.
it totally, yeah. The biggest thing that I could ever give advice is, even if it's a creative person, don't talk about design.
Yeah.
Talk about life, and talk about like real things that happen going on. Because when you build that up, it leads to, oh, so you do this in your work, you lead to this, blah blah blah. So that's a wee insider tip, that's worked for me.
And like, how crazy does it feel? You know, all these, I suppose, years ago where you started doodling bits of type and all this kind of stuff, and now you're working with global brands, like you've worked with UEFA,
Yeah,
like insane, you know, humongous pieces of work that will, you know, people will be able to Google for the rest of the time, now, kind of thing. How does it feel, like, you know, typographer from Scotland? Must be pretty surreal.
It is surreal, and to be honest, I'm extremely proud of myself. I used to not even think about what I've achieved, but in the short space I have, like, I literally graduated 5-6 years ago, and
That's mental.
I've achieved a lot, and that's due to a lot of hard work. But behind that is a passion, determination to make this work, this career that I want, because I don't have a plan B. This is my plan A, and I expect, and this is it for the rest of my life. Like, I want to build this kind of career, and it will carry on for the rest of my life. So it is fantastic, and it's great to be seen on a global scale like that. But sometimes it's when I speak to my closest pals who even don't even work in the design field, and just get general plumbers, electricians, and I go, oh, I've done this project for this, and they're all, I don't give a fuck. And you're like,
colouring in for a living.
So it's always that kind of puts you back on.
Very humbles you, eh?
Yeah, it takes you down a wee bit, which is good.
Family and friends who don't work in the creative industry don't really understand it to the fullest extent until they need a favour. Then they're,
of course,
then they're all ears.
That's typically what happens.
Gregor, we need a website. You're talking about kind of inspirations and motivations there. Do you have specific, you know, where do you kind of draw your inspiration from? Do you have specific typographers, or is it kind of anything, movies, books, whatever?
The one person who really got me involved in typography was a guy called Stephen Boner, who is a design director.
Scott.
Yeah, he's a design director at D8.
Some of his work's lovely.
So Stephen did a lot. He was out on his own for a long period of time, and he was working with international clients. Now, I remember came across Stephen when I was in uni, and I was just so fascinated by his work. But what fascinated me more was the fact that this guy was working from his hometown. He's probably going to kill me. I don't know if it was Alloa or Stirling. He's going to kill me for this. I can't remember exactly.
Some teeny town in Scotland.
Yes, but he was working with like high-end clients and all these world-class brands, and doing amazing work from his home. And I just didn't understand that at first. Like, I didn't think something like that was possible. I genuinely thought that I had to be in London, I had to be in New York, be in Sydney or whatever to accomplish these things. And seeing that gave me a huge amount of inspiration. Now, I speak to Steve now. He's a good friend of mine. He's always been there for me to help me out with any advice, which is fantastic. And so it's weird how seeing that, and then it's kind of curated my career, because I've really, if you've seen someone do it before, then you say, how far can I take it myself? And it's weird now that people or students are coming to me and asking me the similar questions that they asked them. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and you just got to take it. And I try and help every person who ever asks, and that it's not just students as well. It's a lot of like experienced designers and stuff as well. But in terms of like inspiration for work, like, I actually try and stay away from like reading design blogs and Pinterest and all those things, which are great. I'm not knocking them in any way, but I try to just take time out and actually walk and see the natural environment, looking at architecture, life itself, and looking at things in a different perspective rather than just focusing on the design aspect. Like, what can I look at a certain natural leaf or a tree or something like that, the curvature of it, could that lead to a kind of curvature of a letter form and stuff like that, and textures that I can use within my artwork as well, and installations and stuff. And I live in a coastal place, so I try and use that to the best of its ability. Like, sometimes when I'm sure like you're in that same situation where you've got to create a mood board, or you come up with these ideas and you're like, right, stumped. And then the best thing for me to do is just go out a walk. And I just try and take them out and tip
remove yourself from it.
Yeah, and it's good. And just talking about different things, and all of a sudden an idea pops in my head. Like probably all the kind of the work that I've done is randomly appeared in my head, whether I'm driving a car or typically in the shower or doing something
It's always
stupid.
the most annoying places I
It
find, though,
is.
like when you can't use a phone, and then you just take
Or
an
writing
idea.
it
Like, I
down.
just need to jot this idea down, but
I struggle. Like sleep is like the worst thing because I always like wake up during the night going, "Oh, I've got an idea," and then I'll scribble it down, and then I'll wake up and I go, "What the fuck did I just write? That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Is that a drawing? What is that?" And then you're like, "Oh shit, is it gone?" And then maybe like a day later it
It'll
pops
come
up and
back.
stuff.
I always like. I remember reading a while ago, like an Ernest Hemingway kind of tip was whenever he found himself on like a massive, I'm onto a winner here, you know, the juices are
Yeah.
flowing, the creative juices are flowing. He always used to recommend stopping in the middle and then going to bed
Right.
because it's so hard to do because you'll be the same,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But like, you know, once you got a creative idea going, you just want to like get it
Oh,
done to
yeah,
the end
totally.
or to a certain, you know, level of polish before
Mhm.
you stop. But he always used to say with his writing, he used to stop in the middle because he knew exactly where to pick up the next day. So rather than, you know, working yourself to exhaustion and then you wake up the
Yeah.
next day, you come to your writing table and
Mhm.
you're exhausted to begin with because
Yeah.
you exhausted it last night. You know exactly where to pick up and it's
That's
kind of
brilliant
gets
though,
you
isn't
going.
it? That's really, really
But
good doing
so
it.
I try and force myself to do that when possible. But sometimes, you know, sometimes other reasons
Yeah.
stop you because you've got somewhere to go or something to
Yeah.
do. But I
I
thought that
don't.
was amazing.
It is. It's incredible and something I'm going to try and apply to myself. But I don't know if you get this. Like, do you know when you've got an idea and you're doing a certain piece of work and you're totally in the zone, you're loving it, but then all of a sudden another idea pops in for another project, and then you're like, oh fuck, how can I take this aspect of this to take it into that project? And a lot of my like kind of projects stem from that. So whether for instance, my kind of acrylic fusion installations that I've been doing, once I'm pouring the paint on and stuff, I'm thinking that could work good as the brand colours to this other project that I'm
Yeah.
doing here. And I'm like, oh, great, how do I stop this paint from flowing everywhere? And I need to capture it, and I'm covered in paint. I'm like, does anybody get a camera? And I realise I'm on my own, there's no one with a camera. And I'm like, fuck. So it's like moments like that, it's a bit chaotic, but it's quite cool at the same time.
Nah, nice. And what would you say? Well, maybe a bit of a loaded question, but what's your kind of favorite type of work that you prefer doing? Like, what gets you out of bed each morning to? Is there certain kinds of projects do you prefer murals over letter forms and logo types, or is it all kind of roll into one?
It's a tough question actually. I absolutely love what I do. I love waking up every day and with excitement because I don't. It sounds stupid, but I don't see it as a job. Like because I'm so passionate and excited and
Because you
do my
enjoy
thing.
it. That's
Because
why
I
it doesn't
enjoy
feel
it. I
like a
love.
job.
I do, and but
It's
it
the same
depends.
here as well, though. Like, sometimes when you come in here and you're having a laugh with your colleagues,
Yeah.
working on ideas and stuff, you need to kind of, as cheesy as it sounds, kind of pinch yourself sometimes and go, I'm actually getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
Wow. Or sometimes when you're relaying the story to people that don't work in the creative
Yeah,
industry,
I
it's
was
like,
about to
wait,
say,
so you were
yeah.
doing this all day? And it was like, yes, but
And that whole colouring in thing kicking in pretty well.
it's turning out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
I made a career out of it. Thus far.
I probably go through phases. Right now, I'm loving doing my acrylic fusion installations, which is growing arms and legs. Started off as a personal project to commissions, now it's leading into commercial work as well, which is amazing. But then I'm also working on a fantastic branding project right now, doing like word marks for that. And then in the following week, I've got a mural coming up. So it chops and changes, and as long as the project is excitement and it's a worthwhile investment, like I always try and say, like as long as I'm making an impact somewhere, then it makes it worthwhile for me and to get up and get going and do all these things. But yeah, like I can't specifically say because I work in so many different
Yeah,
fields,
of
but I
course.
love it all, to be honest.
And do you have the same creative process depending on what you're working on, or is it something slightly different between a logo type, between a mural, between a typeface, or do you kind of do you have a set of repeatable habits that you use at
I
all?
do every project that I start with always starts with pencil and paper, sketching away. Obviously because my focus is on typography and lettering, like letter forms and all those things come into it. And that's the same process for whether it's branding to murals. And typically what happens is a pencil, say it's a word mark, but that word mark could potentially be a mural. So it would always start with pencil, and I'll sketch it out iteration after iteration until I get it right. And then I'll trace on top with a light box and using like a micron pen, and then colour it in black.
Yeah.
I always do it full in black on an A3 paper, always A3. I can't do A4 for some reason. I just love the flow.
These tiny little things are so weird.
And then from that, I usually kind of scan it in and take in Photoshop, take in an Illustrator, and then do a digital version. Typically with the mural designs and obviously branding work, all needs a digital and vectorized kind of design. But what is happening is even when I'm doing these mural designs, what I'm suggesting to clients and what we can do is it's more than just a mural. Like we can create social media assets, because part of like creating the mural and seeing the process, you create a brand film, but you can see the actual digital form of that design. And some clients, brands that I know now who I've been working with, have used those assets and animated them and used them part of presentations and all those kind of things. So it's given it more legs in a sense. But that kind of that's the kind of process that I go through, and obviously collaborating with whether it's the brand or an agency, going, what do you think of this? Fine tune it here. What's your ideas? Do you think? And it's great working with other agencies as well and other designers, because they maybe see things that I've maybe missed out, and I'm honest in saying that. Like, it's not always about, oh, my way is just the best. It's not. No, it's never like that. And it's the same. I'm sure that we're working in your teams is working in that collaborative environment, seeing how one designer can collaborate and see a different asset and all these things.
It's so strange because sometimes you assume that everyone thinks the same way as you do, or like they'll arrive at the same. They get given the same information, the same brief, so they must be thinking the same thing I'm thinking, and then lo and behold, they produce something completely different. You're like, right, I wasn't thinking about that at all, but I like where you're going. Like, keep going. So,
but that must be interesting from your point of view, and taking like whether it's 4 different ideas and how you can take like, well, I say the best parts of it, and kind of mold into this even better piece as well. And being a kind of creative director of that kind of role must be quite exciting.
Yeah, like I really enjoy. It was leading a team and being like directing a team rather than being as hands-on is probably the thing I've struggled most with, the transition from being the senior designer or whatever, move into more of a leadership role and kind of mentoring and leading people, because the temptation just to go, I would do it this way, or it's really difficult because you want the best out of the work, but you obviously want the best out of the person as well, and you don't want to kind of piss in their chips in any way, but you also want
that's straight work, by the way. You need to do better.
Is that you had your eyes closed when you do it? So it is difficult, and I'm definitely not perfect at it by any means, and something I'm still learning to relinquish that kind of control to other people, and also being confident enough as a person who leads a team and a team manager to let other people make mistakes when you know that you spotted the mistake and you know it's a mistake, but just let them make it because they need to make it, and to make the work better, because that's how I learned. Like my creative directors in the past, like they didn't give me an easy pass by any means of the word, and it's kind of a baptism by fire. But I think that's the kind of sink or swim is the way that I kind of learn things. But you must be quite similar, because obviously when you're painting some murals, you've got like a team of people helping you in some occasions.
It is.
And when it's your name and like at the end of the day, it's your reputation as Craig Black Design. How difficult is it to kind of relinquish that control to other people?
I've really eased up, to be honest. From when I first went back, when I was working on kind of bigger branding projects and realizing that I had to work with copywriters and photographers and all this stuff, and it was essentially giving trust onto them, because it's going out as Craig Black Design. I need to be the highest possible quality of standard as possible, kind of thing. Highest quality, sorry. But I felt, what I quickly realized is that if you can give trust and responsibility to them, they will provide the highest quality they can do, and give them power, exactly. And that's really benefited me. So in terms of like working on like I said, those branding projects, but even with the murals, you've got to give a bit of leeway, because especially like, for instance, some projects that I've got an extremely tight deadline, and I says I need as many hands as possible to help me on this.
Yeah.
Like, if you've painted it a little bit a squinty line, then I'm not going to be breathing down your neck. But it's because really they've came to help me, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It says, but it's similar to what you said about like letting them make their mistakes, but obviously next time they'll learn from that.
Yeah.
And then
That's the important thing. As long as they learn from the
Oh,
mistake,
totally.
like,
And
you can't just continually make mistakes and
Yeah.
expect everything to be rosy.
Oh, totally. And but I've kind of worked with the same people in different areas. So whether I come through to Edinburgh and I work on a mural project there, I know the right people to ask again, because their willingness and they're energized, and they want to try this. They want to work with me as well, and that was a big thing for me. Like, it doesn't matter like what your skill set is. If you come with a passion, then you're willing to learn, then I'm happy to work with you. It says, see if you come in and, all right, you've got the skill sets and you're a fucking pain in the arse, and
Yeah.
you're boring, or you're just being rude. And I've had that on a few
Yeah,
occasions,
just
and
not
I've had to
getting
deal with
the
that
respect.
situation. Exactly, and especially with you're working with a client and this brand is just Craig Black, then I expect to be of a nice and like high experience level to just to be a nice person, basically.
Yeah.
And I pride myself on that.
Well, that's how you build relationships at the end of the day.
Totally. So it's been in terms of relinquishing, it has got easier. But majority of the time, because it's such a niche aspect of the typing lettering, it's me does that work. But in terms of the branding and large scale murals and getting help and collaborating with different people, yes, 100%. And giving trust and responsibility is a big thing.
Nice. And where do you see your brand business in the future, in the years to come? Are you wanting to try and be as hands-on as possible, or are you wanting it to become your name, your hallmark of that standard of Craig Black design, but with a team of people doing a lot of the hands-on stuff?
It's quite interesting that you say that, because to be honest, I do not want to be an agency. I've been in an experience that I just didn't like it. Just to be brutally honest.
No.
So I love being out on my own, but I love collaborating with other people and building teams project by project. And I just love that flexibility. Where I see myself going in terms of that, getting other people to do it, I feel that doing murals for the next 10, 15 years, physically and mentally, is challenging. Whether I can keep up with that. Right now, I feel, I'm quite young, I can do it now and stuff like that, but if I keep doing it for the next 10, 15 years, it might be a bit hard, and I can see myself getting to the point where whether I do the design, sketch it out, digitize it, and then get other people to paint it. Yeah. I would love that. It'd be much easier to do. It would be, but I'm unfortunately not at that stage yet. But I'm constantly growing each year. Getting bigger and bigger in terms of reach and where I want my brand to go and the impact that I want to make. And I want to make an impact where it can inspire people to go do their own thing as well. And inspire even brands to go push themselves and do kind of more socially good stuff as well. And I pride myself on that. And that's been a big draw for people wanting to work with me. Because I like to think I'm a good person. My mum tells me that. But, so if my mum says that, then that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just continue to be a good person and being nice and doing good work, and seeing where that continually grows each year and year, and seeing where that impact and influence can grow.
Yeah, awesome. And what would you say are some of the kind of biggest or / most common struggles that you run into as like a typographer and lettering artist? Is there an equivalent of, can you make the logo bigger? That's probably the most common one that we get, or make it pop.
I still get that. The struggles that I get sometimes is just when you're trying to get across an idea and you've explained it to its fullest form, and sometimes you need to have trust from the client, especially when it comes to, say, like a mural design, and you're saying, like, this is how it's going to look. You create this digital design in its purest form, and says this is what it's going to look like on the wall. It says, however, depending on the wall, if it's like a brick wall, it will slightly different. It's not going to be a flat like it is on a bloody Illustrator. And sometimes the struggles is trying to get the clients to just understand that. And it sounds pretty stupid though, but it's so true. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same. It's not like a digital screen. It's going to have slightly more bumps in it because it's by hand.
There'll be shadows if there's brickwork and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly, and parts of the brick are going to fall off the wall. That's sometimes that's not my fault, but that's what happens. In terms of type and other kind of struggles that you get, there's like I work with like kind of font foundries, and there's quite minute details that go into those kind of work, and that's been a real kind of experience for me, and finding out different processes by other people, and I can adapt my skill set to their kind of process as well.
Cool.
It's not always about how my process was. It's like because some brands and agencies contact me and go like, I want to try and be seamlessly and flexible as possible to help whoever I'm working with.
Achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. Because I have met illustrators and designers before, and there's like, this is my process, this is my way, and that's it. And I'm like, how the fuck do you get by? Like, really? Like, it blows my mind, honestly. Like, you've got to be fucking flexible, and you've got to be adaptable.
Apart from anything else, like, if you're an arsehole, that'll be the last time you ever get that bit of work.
Exactly.
Like, if you're flexible and you're accommodating and you're a nice guy and, you do a great piece of work, then that will travel far and wide.
Going on that note, right, I'm currently working with a client in San Francisco, and I can't remember what the time difference is. I think it's 8 hours. They're 8 hours behind. But I've had to do some Skype calls at like 10 p.m. at night, 11 o'clock at night, and I've done a full shift, like doing whatever that work, then getting in that presentation, and that's probably
So you need to be on your A game as well.
That's another struggle that I have as well, is people just see it, obviously you're focusing on your type and lettering, but because I'm running a business, I'm wearing multiple hats. So you're speaking to the client, you're meeting the client, you're doing the work, you're putting it into a presentation, then you've got to present the work. Like, when you're in an agency, you've got probably 4 or 5 other people doing that and helping you on board with that. So that's a major struggle and challenge. But the more and more I do it, I'm getting a more of a streamlined process of how to do it. And I'm kind of brutally honest to some of these clients, like the one with San Francisco with this, speaking at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, listen, lads, I'm exhausted today. I've worked so hard on this. But the thing is, they turn around and say, we really appreciate the effort that you've put in today to get this to this point and do this presentation, and to be speaking to us at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Friday night when you could be out at the pub.
In your pants with a Chinese takeaway.
Exactly. But I've had to hold off. But those moments...
Gotta go, Domino's is on its way, lads.
Exactly. If door is rattling, there's a buzzer going. But this happened actually really recently, and because of that appreciation, that I went that extra level, done that extra work to get that presentation done for their deadline. The deadline wasn't for me; it was for them to help present to their higher board, whoever they were meeting. And I got that work done for them, and they were super appreciative of that. That has led to me working with further projects with them, purely because I went that extra mile for them. So what people don't realize is that if you can go that extra little bit mile for your clients, they can open up so many more doors. And that is leading to me now creating a potential brand font, and also a branded experience, and also a possible trip to San Francisco, which I'm absolutely fucking buzzing about. So I'm glad I stayed up that Friday night and done that. But I kid you not, I was sitting there drained. And because I've built all this relationship with the creative director, the head of design over there, he's like, listen, like, you've done really well. Go to bed now and see how on Monday we want that project and that piece of work done. Push it till Tuesday now. And it just shows you that if you're willing to go an extra mile, they'll do it for you as well. So treat people the way you want to be treated.
Cool. Absolute priceless words of advice, probably. What do you wish you knew before becoming a typographer?
Everything.
Like, is there anything that you think, if I knew that 2 years ago, fuck me, my life would be easier?
I honestly, like, everything business. Like, I've never been taught like how to run a business. It's literally been learning as I go. And if I knew, it's a funny one, because if I did know it earlier, would that mean I'd be much more advanced in what I'm doing, or would it help me back in different areas? I'm being this whole philosophical.
Or like, how kind of everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
So you've learned the way you've learned for a reason.
Maybe learning business side of stuff a wee bit earlier, because when I was in agencies before, I didn't ever get to meet any clients, and I wanted to. Like, not many designers want to actually say it. Usually designers say, here's my work. But because I had in the background that no one knew about, I was like, I want to be this independent designer specialised in type. I want to use these experiences in this agency environment to see how it works, how you talk to a client, how do you present your work and all this. And I didn't really get that.
Yeah.
And I found that really frustrating, even though I asked those questions. So I remember when I went out on my own and I started working from your local butcher to your local barber shop, and then you suddenly start to grow, and then you're like, all right. And then obviously the higher end client, you need to be more presentable and learn how to do these things. So if I knew that a little bit earlier, it probably would have helped and probably would have maybe won me a few projects. Because and honestly, I've probably lost quite a few projects as well, and that's part of the process.
Or just from business savviness.
Probably as well, yeah. Like even just setting up a proper proposal,
right? Okay, yeah,
and all those things, and pricing accordingly. Sometimes I was like, "Fucking, what have I done here?" And I don't even know what numbers to say. And, but the great thing about the creative community, and even like I've got friends who run their own businesses, and I've asked them as well, like just getting advice from all areas, like, and then you start to gain like advice from these people and kind of forge it into your own kind of element, and then your business plan, whatever that is. And then you start to go, right, this makes sense. So I do wish I did learn more about the business side of stuff, which I think if you're in an agency and you're a designer and you have that opportunity to go meet a client, and even if you don't even have to present and you could sit in the background and take that information in, because see, in about a year's time or 2 years' time, you're going to be flung in a situation where you're going to have to deal with that on your own. And if you can learn in that situation and see how other people do it, that's invaluable. And I wish I did see that. But unfortunately I didn't, and I just had to wing it big time.
Oh well, it's worked out for you thus far. So.
You could say so, yeah.
You've done quite a few talks at Barcelona, over in talks in Brisbane and things like that as well. How did that come about? Like these international kind of...
It's been mental. It first started at an event called Gab in Glasgow by the guys at Jam Hot. Graham and Craig, brilliant guys. I love them to pieces. I remember it must have been about 3 years ago. So it's not a long time in the whole speaking circuit. And it was it a tweet? So basically, there was a tweet from them guys saying, listen, we've got a 15-minute slot before like the headliner who I was going to talk. If anyone wants to kind of have a platform to share their story. And I initially ignored it, right? But there was a part of me going, do it, Craig. And then I was like, fuck that, Craig. Don't know. It's fucking too scary. But there was 2 people, like, you know how you do that shared tweet message thing, saying, you should fucking do this. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. So I sent Graham my message saying, I'm going to put myself forward. I'm going to do this. And he's like, great, I'll do it. But what transpired was it wasn't a 15-minute. It turned out like I was one of the headline speakers at that event. So I went to Gab, and it was at I can't remember the hotel in Glasgow. Anyway, but there was 3 other speakers for me. I was the first one up, and I was absolutely petrified. It was in front of about 50 people, and I was absolutely petrified. And it was all about just obviously speaking in front of people as well, and also when I was doing my talk, I didn't want it to be a portfolio showcase. I wanted to speak about my creative journey. And part of that is the ups and downs that happens with that. When I was working in London, and it was quite challenging being on my own, and I hit burnout big time, twice in fact in the 1 month, and I was like fucked, and I didn't have anyone to cry with in a sense, and it made me realise that I wanted to go home, and I missed home, and how important it was to have family and friends around you. And I openly spoke about those things and happened in my life. And
just kind of putting yourself out there a little bit.
Totally. I had to put myself out there. But I remember coming off right after that, and it was one of the guys said, that was fucking... Just as soon as I sat down, and I had no idea, because in my head I was like, this is fucking shit, Craig. You're doing shit. You're boring everyone. But the response was incredible. And I mean, incredible. Like, people come up to me going, Craig, that was fucking brilliant. And says, you need to do this more. And I was like, what? I was like, no, you need to share your story more. And because it's an amazing, you can see it's part of your brand and it's who you are as a person, and your personality is coming across really well. And I've never had any like public speaking advice. Like even this right now, I should be speaking slower probably and all that stuff. But I've just thought, fuck it, I'm going to be myself and share my story. Now, what happened from that event was there was some person in that crowd. Sorry, I'm tapping the table, but someone was in that crowd, which led to another event. I think it was in Edinburgh, my next one, and it was a bigger crowd again. Then it led to another one, and it was the guy, Matt Haynes, who curates the design conference in Brisbane, and he's a fucking wicked character. He's mental, off the wall guy, right? But he's genuinely heart of gold, really amazing. He's seen my work, but he's seen that I was doing talks as well. None of it was recorded, but what he said to me was, he says he looks at speakers and designers across the world, high end people, and at this point, this was what, last year. So prior to that, I didn't do a lot of kind of big talks like on the international stage. It was all kind of Scotland and maybe some in London, which was good, and then it kind of grew from there. But the one in Australia all came from the fact that Matt saw my personality through the way that I was presenting myself on social media, and then we got on a Skype call, and we just chatted about life. He says, "I fucking love you. You're coming to Brisbane next year," and I'm like, "Fuck, let's do this." So I remember going out to Brisbane, and that was the first time I properly went to myself, shit, right, this is real now. Like, Craig,
this is a big conference.
This is big. Your presentation needs to look good. You need to get all those typos out. So I spoke in front. So it went from 50, 100, maybe 150. Stayed at 150 for a while to then 1,000 people, and I was like, fuck. But I kind of
1,000 people.
Yeah, it started. So that was in Australia, and then it's grew from that. But the big thing I realised is it's just as if I'm having a conversation with you right now. I tried to not big it up and say, these are all these people, they're going to judge me and all that. I just trying to simplify in its best form. And again, I was just sharing the same kind of creative journey, my process, my ups and downs, and basically put my heart on my sleeve and spoke about the mental aspect, the emotional factor as well. And it just resonated with so many creatives and so many people.
That's surprising.
And I realized that I almost had a responsibility to share this and make people aware of it, and to speak about your feelings and all this stuff, because I come from an environment where it's a very tough man environment. It's hard to talk about your feelings. Don't let my brother, it's hard to speak, right? Talking about my brother's a typical hard man, like kind of guy, and I've always kind of probably about 3 or 4 years ago, struggled to speak about our feelings. And then I remember one time I just burst into tears in front of him, and I was like, I'm trying to speak about all my emotions and stuff, and he's like, "Why don't you ever talk to me about this?" I'm like, "Why the fuck have you never talked about this?"
Can you fucking blame me?
Exactly. But once I released all those emotions and feelings, I realised that this is something that I could use as an asset to help other people. And share this message. And that story from Brisbane, I think I got voted like one of the top speakers at that event. I was like, no one knew who I was down there, which is really cool. And you've got these amazing designers and agencies from all over the world coming to speak there. And there's like this guy from bloody Scotland just sharing his story. And then people are going, I want to connect with this guy. I want to meet and speak with Craig, and I want to work with him. And it's became a major thing for me. So from Australia last year, I have now spoke in Paris. I spoke in Off in Barcelona this year. I'm going to Poland later in, I think it's December. But the big thing is, from the conference last year, the design conference in Brisbane, there's a company called AGDA, which is Australian Graphic Design Association or something like that. But they're like the government body of graphic design. They were at the event, and they basically loved who I was as a person. I love my brand, but love my story. So, and it's been a year in the making, but in the next few weeks, and probably when this launches, I'll finally get to show and tell everybody that I'm going to do a national speaking tour in Australia. And I'm going to be speaking in 5 or 6 cities across Australia. They fly me over, and I'm fortunate enough I can take my wife with me.
Oh wow!
Which is
makes it a lot easier to
it does
warrant the trip. And
she's been a massive backbone to everything that I do, and she's just incredible. And she helps me a lot with the business side of stuff and the old typos and all those kind of things. So to share that experience with someone, obviously my wife is just incredible. So I'm going out there and doing this and sharing my story, and it's great that people want to hear it. Like it's not as if I'm like forcing it on people. Like, oh, here's my feelings, and but it's because it's making an impact, and that's the thing that I keep going back to. Is like, if I can make an impact in this world, whether it's through my design work or it's through who I am as a person and my brand, and then making that world a little bit better, then my job's done. Even if it's like, if you're speaking in front of 1,000 people, and like when I was at off, I think it was nearly 2,000 people I was speaking to, and again, major hitters in the game, like design game, who are speaking at it, and I'm going,
huge festival.
how the fuck? Like, I kind of pinch myself, so Craig, like, you're on this platform, like, you're obviously respected in this level to speak. You're like doing great in your field. Like, use it as
It's
an
that
opportunity.
imposter syndrome, isn't it?
It
Like, how
is,
the hell
it
did I
is,
get here?
it
Like, I
is
feel like a
totally.
total fraud speaking about this in front of all these people.
Totally. And then when I was in, I'm going side tangent now,
No.
whatever, but when I was at off, it was a 3-day event, and I spoke on the first day, and I remember going to a talk before. I think it was the first one in the morning, and I just wanted to get the vibe of the venue, and it was like in 2 sections. But I ended up walking into the top section. It was quite empty, and the front bit was busy. And it was, I'm not going to name who it was, but the talk was great, and it was great content, and everything was brilliant. But people weren't there. Like, there wasn't. It was busy, and it maybe just because there was someone speaking in the main hall, the bigger hall, which is like a 2,500 people. And I started going, oh, fuck, no one knows who I am over here. Like, no one's going to come see me.
Yeah.
And that really kind of hit me at first. But fortunately enough, I was working on an installation. I was painting on a car while I was there. So during the talks and while I was running for the 2 days, I was doing this brand activation project, doing lettering design on a car, which was amazing, by the way. Great experience. But so it took my mind off it. And then one of people said, Craig, you need to go do your talk now. So I walked up to this venue. It's like a side part of off. It's like a big, massive tent. And there was this fucking queue right outside. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? So I walk in to a little side door, and then this kind of foyer bit where the speakers go, and the woman was sorting out with the mic. She's like, have you seen that queue outside? He says, have you actually seen the crowd? I said, I've not looked yet. She opened the curtain, and it was a full house. And I'm like,
God,
fucking hell, right? Fucking hell. And she's like, look outside, and there was a queue waiting for me to get in. People come in, and I'm like, are these people waiting to see me, or is it people before me, or is it people after me?
Is there another famous Craig Black?
I know, and it was literally imposter syndrome kicking in. But I went on, and I shared the same story again, and the response, the response is really incredible. Like, I remember on stage, I was actually getting I keep getting emotions, but there's certain points of it that I get quite emotional about. And I remember there was a girl on my right hand side, and she was in tears. And I looked at her, and I just paused on stage, and I was like, I'm going to start crying here. And but she shouted something out, saying like, what you're doing is fucking amazing. And everybody just stood up and gave me a clap. And I was just like, fucking hell, like, what is going on? Like, so as soon as I came off stage, a lot of people came up to me saying like, listen, this has really, really inspired me, your story. You do fantastic work, but it's the person behind it, it's the brand behind it, who you are is the most driving force behind it. And I've always just been me, and I've just been trying to project myself and who I am as a person. But the next day, because obviously people were going to other talks, and I was doing this painting on the car, I must have got, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people coming up to me just saying, Craig, really inspiring. And I was just like blown away. And it made me realise, it made me realise how important it is to do good and share your story and actually try and make an impact and help inspire other people to go do other things. The big thing for me is if I can inspire someone to go pursue something they've always wanted to do, because I've got friends who work in agencies. I'm not slating any agencies at all or any other way, but they've got a passion for photography, for instance, and they've always wanted to go do it full time, and they've always been scared. I was like, listen, I was fucking scared. I had no idea what I was doing, but you need to jump into the unknown and kind of go with it and see where it takes you. And the amount of people who've done that and listened to my story and go, you know what? If he'd done it on fucking nothing with no financial support or whatever, no business support or whatever, and he made it happen, I can make it happen. And that's the most important thing. And it's a guy who comes from a fucking small town, and who's working with big brands across the world, which is amazing. But I just find that it's so humbling to work with these big brands, but just as humbling to work with the local brands and making a difference with them as well, and seeing the local community come together. And that kind of leads on to why I started a social enterprise as well.
Creative Inverclyde.
So this is a really, really important thing. This goes back to this whole wanting to help and do social good. So the little backstory about this was when I was in Australia for that talk last year. I realised the creative community down there was fucking magical, right? They were doing really good they were doing social good down there. Social enterprises doing good work and making an impact with the local community. So it's, for instance, doing mural projects with local school kids and even high school kids, and how they can learn and make the area a much happier place, because people don't realise, like, see, if you see a mural or a piece of colour, a piece of art, it can actually bring a smile to your face.
Yeah. That's what I was saying at the start. Like, your work is like can make people who aren't even remotely interested or got a creative bone in their body go, that's fucking cool. I'm going to take a snap of that. Like,
yeah, totally. And that kind of spurred me on. So I came back from Australia and I was like, oh, I want to do this in my hometown, and I want to do this in Scotland, and I wanted to make an impact, but I didn't know how or what it was at first. I just wanted to help, and I wanted to create something. So in my Inverclyde's like the district, so there's like multiple towns within that, and I didn't know any other graphic designer. I didn't know any other illustrators or designers or whatever creative fields. Even though I knew there was something bubbling under the surface. I knew there was a lot of independent kind of craft stores and art stores. But I felt as if, like, what if I could create a kind of community of people, not just the creative community, but people who are interested in the creative sector or creative stuff or creative business or whatever, and come together and showcase, like, I am a designer in this area, I do photography and I do illustration, and how they can collaborate with local businesses and brands that way. So my first ended up, I'm going to put on an event. I'm going to put on talks. Rather than me talk, let's give 4 other people in the area who are doing amazing things, whether they're doing for local clients to international clients or whatever, and just to share their story. And I just thought, fuck it, I'm going with this gun ho. Just found a venue, and just went for it and put a bit of market material together and said, let's happen. Now, that turned out to, I think the first event was like 50 people, which is brilliant for a town, do you know what I mean? It was really good, and I was like, wow, looking at the crowd, and I was like, right, 10 or 15 of them are my family and friends. And that's my wife's family and friends over there. But anyway, it inspired me, because a lot of people came up to me saying, we need this, whatever this is you're making, Craig, whatever you're building, I want to be a part of it. And that kind of made me think, right, I need to push this forward. Now, fast forward 6 months, and me shouting about how creativity and working with creative industries can make a huge difference in areas as well, like derelict areas, and change people's perception and what they think on life and focus on different things. People really caught onto that, and it caught wind. Now, someone who caught wind of that was one of the co-founders now of Creative Inverclyde. 2 co-founders is Andrew Bowman, who's a business director who runs his own company called ARB Growth, and he's worked with various different companies across the UK and stuff like that in business development. Cool. And also Louise Hunter, who has recently moved back home from London after 30 years in London. She runs an event management company and working with international clients across the world, such as New York Times and stuff. And again, she lives like 4 minutes away from me in Gregor. Wow. It's amazing. But they two totally aligned with what my thinking was and how I believe that creativity can make social good. Now, the 3 of us felt like, why don't we combine our forces together and make this a real thing, an actual social enterprise? And I was like, yes, definitely, because I really do believe that we can make a difference this way. So what was happening was we worked together, and we built this social enterprise, and now we're collaborating with Creative Scotland, and we've been speaking to the Scottish Government as well, various other different amazing entrepreneurial businesses as well, wanting to help us. And then we're working on interesting projects, and I don't want to give too much away, but we're building this creative community. We're putting on more talks now. I think the last talk we had was 150 people, which was pretty awesome in this town. That's cool. But what is great is, I don't know if these statistics are absolutely correct, but what I last found out was like 60% or 70% of the Scottish population lives in towns and not in the cities such as Glasgow and Edinburgh and Aberdeen. So I thought to myself, well, what's happening for those creative people in those areas? Like, are they starting their own businesses in that area, but do they having to go to Glasgow to work? what if they had the confidence to have a platform to actually start their own businesses in their hometown or on their own doorstep? So what we were finding is we're getting
That's
people
cool.
from Ayrshire, and then we're getting people from places like Glasgow, even people from Edinburgh have came to our events already, and just to get part of this movement what we're
That's
creating.
awesome, though.
And then part of that as well is we're building this creative community, which is leading to amazing opportunities. So when we talk about community as well, it's not just creative community, it's the actual full community. So the big thing that my wife's a mental health nurse in the local prison in Greenock, and she's always wanted me to come in and speak to the prisoners and share about my work, but I've never really had the right, I don't know, the right moment to do it, or something. I needed to have a proper context to it. And then from that spark, Louise has been speaking to the governor there, and now we're potentially building this art exhibition with prisoners. But we're doing this as a community project, and it's a big, massive thing. And we've got this, I can't remember exactly, but a potential documentary is getting made about it as well, like fucking big documentary, which came out of an inspiration and an inspiring story of working with these prisoners who have got amazing artwork as well. But it's not even people who have not even been in the creative, have done any artwork, or want to get
Happen to have
involved.
the creative ability.
Exactly. And then part of this exhibition is colliding that and collaborating with other artists across the world. But we're doing this exhibition together with prisoners, so it's an amazing thing. This is just newly brewing, and it's going to be for next year. We're also working on a project with homelessness. We want to kind of help with homeless people and show how creative people can do with that as well. We actually want to create. I'm hoping to create almost like a creative working space. Because right now, like I work in a home studio, which I love to pieces. And I actually tear myself away if I need to move, but
It is your home at the end of the day.
It is, and I need to break away from that. And if I could find a creative space, and there's not one in my area, so I'm trying to work with. We are consultants now, working on with the council and various other establishments to bring this to life, and it's happening.
Jesus,
But
man,
it all started with a spark. Like it started with me just going, I think we could do something amazing here, and I think we can do it good, and I think we can make a difference and make an impact. And people are like, you know what? I believe in you, Craig. I'm going to come with you. And it's just snowballed. It's totally snowballed. And Louise and Andrew,
like, if you never went to Australia, that you might have never
No,
had
exactly.
that spark. So it's
Totally.
such a chain reaction.
It totally is. And the big thing going back to wanting to provide like a creative service, make people aware of the creative industries, because when I was younger, and I'm sure you were the exact same, you didn't know anything about being a graphic designer.
Absolutely
growing up,
not.
do you know what I mean?
Nope.
So
I was speaking on the first podcast with Dawn that my school actually tried to like talk me out of
Did they?
even pursuing design, like
Fuck's sake.
the career Scotland people, just because they weren't educated about
Yeah.
like design wasn't really a design, creativity, digital marketing wasn't really an avenue back then,
But
Wow.
the creative industries is a massive like part of the economy here. Like it's fucking integral, and that's another story. But the big thing was when I grew up, I didn't know that you could actually have a career drawing stuff. As it written, it's quote into it. So I always thought to myself, if hopefully starting have my kids come along, that they could grow up knowing that they can have a career being a designer or an illustrator or a photographer, that they can actually have those careers. That's a tangible, like you can actually go do this and get paid in that simplest form. And I want to provide that opportunity not just for my future kids, but to everyone in the area, and not even just Inverclyde. I want to make an impact across Scotland as a whole, and just making, like talking about high schools, for instance, like getting in and educating them, saying like, encourage this, man. Like it's an amazing industry to work in. Like I love the fact that you can transition throughout different aspects of the creative industry as well. Like you can go from a designer and then you could be a photographer, but those skills are transferable. And it's not as if you're just getting into one sole career and that's solely what you can only do, and you can't use those skill sets anywhere else. That's the beauty about the creative industry. There's so many different areas you can work in, which is beautiful.
We're working with do you know Helena Good at Edinburgh College?
Yes.
So we're working with her at the moment with the Daydream Believers program that she set up.
Brilliant.
Which is like, Helena Good her enthusiasm is absolutely
I've heard amazing
endless.
things about her.
She's awesome. I love her to bits. But the Daydream Believers program is basically getting creative agencies, businesses, startups, whoever it may be, creating the lessons that teachers can just go on, download for free,
Amazing.
and teach their kids basically, how to brand themselves or how to make a logo, or like, the one that we're working on is like empathy and things like that.
Amazing.
So you should like get in touch with her.
No,
I could
definitely,
introduce you
definitely.
to her because she'd like the more the merrier. With
Oh,
projects like
any
that, obviously.
contact in like location is not a factor. Do you know what I mean? Like
No, not
I
at
keep
all.
saying, like I'm based in Inverclyde, but the whole aspect is Scotland as a whole
Yeah.
and how we can work together to make positive change. And I truly believe in that. And I pinch myself. Sometimes I need to sit back and go, look at what's happening here, Craig. Like you started this out of nothing,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing, and you're seeing people coming together, and it's like all you've done is you've created an event, for instance, but you've managed to bring two people together working in different fields, but collaborating and making something beautiful, or even just business or just doing a piece of work or whatever
Yeah.
it is, and that's just incredible. Do you know, to be able to do that? And who's to say, like, in the next 10, 15 years, if this continues on and the impact that I've made through that, and if I get a bit too tired and I'm like, right, listen, here's the reins, someone else take over, and that continues on,
Yeah.
then that's a
It's a
legacy.
legacy thing.
Exactly, it's a legacy. And I want I want to leave a mark in this world, and I want to make sure I've made an impact to inspire it for the good, to be honest.
Well, that seems like a perfect place to wrap this up. That is, no, honestly, you're doing amazing work, both personally and, with the creative Inverclyde work as well. I remember you telling me about it.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thanks. I've loved this. It's a great conversation.
We'll definitely get you back on in the future, I'm sure.
Brilliant.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of work you're going to be up to next.
Excellent.
If I could make it to Australia to catch one of your talks, I would. But like, I'll catch the next one when they're over here. But
Yeah.
I honestly wish you the best. I really appreciate it.
Nah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Brilliant.
So to wrap up, everyone, as per usual, please head over to the podcast's website, the mitmpodcast.com. That's the mitmpodcast.com, tongue twister, where you can find out obviously more about the show. All the show notes and any links that we've kind of discussed on the show will be on there. You can find out some information about myself, as well as how you can personally support the show also. And of course, please head over to your favorite podcast platform, hit the subscribe or follow button. That makes sure that you will get notified when a new episode goes up. We wouldn't want you to miss one, obviously. And please, while you're there, leave a review, because it honestly just helps the show. It helps bring other people into the show, but also lets me know that you're enjoying what you're listening to, or where I can probably improve if you're not enjoying it. So it just helps us all around to kind of help promote the show. So that's it from us here. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found some method in the madness.